Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, July 20th. A lot of great continuing series, some that you're going to be ordering in advance of their next issue, and a ton of amazing big drops, including one that is just mind-blowing, the amount of incredible covers on it. All that, and we're going to have an amazing special guest who has probably touched the heart of most of your childhoods. If you were a big fan of cartoons in the 90s, he's written some of the greatest prose and some of the most amazing comics, and he has a big one we'll be talking about that is on FOC this Monday. So stay tuned after this opener, and we're going to bring you some awesome comics that you're going to want to reach out to your local comic shop and order. Hi everyone, I'm Matthias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you. All right, and today we're going to be talking about comics on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, July 20th. A lot of big books I am very excited for. I imagine you got a few you're interested in there, Kyle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about a couple of them before. This week for me, it's oddly an amount of manga that I'm excited for. But well, there's always stuff.
Yeah, I am really excited because I can say that one of my favorite manga publishers is now being included in a very accessible distributor for comic shops. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, we should talk about where local comic shops can get these incredible books and where you, as the consumer, can look to order your books. Now, there are two main websites we use for FOC week after week. If you're a fan of Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom, Distillery, Kodansha, Square Enix, Seven Seas, and now Oni Press, you're going to want to use Penguin Random House, the world's largest distributor of books, and prhcomics.com is going to be your source there. You'll see this wonderful website, prhcomics.com. Right off the bat, they know what to target. FOC is the first thing on their page. Clicking that will bring you to this version of the website. We always recommend sorting at A to Z, where you will see everything on Final Order Cutoff this Monday. Large amount of great books. But I'm sure many of you noticed that some of your favorite publishers might not have been included in the list that PRH handles. If you're a fan of DC Comics, Image Comics, Dynamite, a lot of the great indie publishers, there are multiple distributors for them, but the one that has the best FOC website is lunardistribution.com. Lunardistribution.com will bring you to this wonderful website where you just scroll down a few hairs to upcoming FOC. upcoming FOC, make sure you're clicked on the right date, and you can simply scroll through and see all of the absolutely amazing books that are available through that distribution. And now, as of this week, you can start getting Yen Press manga through Lunar Distribution as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. First, I want to introduce our incredible guest who has a huge book on FOC at Lunar Distribution this week. He has done some of the greatest cartoons out there. He has written some of my favorite prose novels of recent memory, and he has done one constantly amazing comic series amongst many brilliant comic series he's been writing since his college days. He is the man behind Gargoyles, Greg Weisman.
Hi.
How are you doing, Greg?
I'm good. How are you?
Now that you're on, I am doing notably better.
That's the effect I have on people.
So, Greg, you've had a long history with comics. Far from this new project that you're working on, can you tell us a little bit about what started you in the industry?
Sure. I mean, it goes back hundreds of years to 1983. Marvel announced a new talent search. And I thought, God, they're just going to be flooded with submissions. And I thought, well, if Marvel's announced one, I bet DC will announce one any second. So instead of prepping a submission for Marvel, I prepped a submission for DC. And sure enough, 1 month later, DC announced its own new talent search. And I had my stuff ready, and I immediately sent it out. Later, when I worked on staff at DC, I found the logbook where they logged in all the new talent submissions. And I was the second name on the list. And the first name was someone who was local to Manhattan. I'm guessing probably literally physically walked in and dropped their stuff off. And also years later, when I was on staff, when I found that logbook, I found it because I was cleaning out a file cabinet in the DC offices, and between two hanging files, my submission, after being logged, slipped down between two hanging files, and so wound up on the floor of the drawer, hidden by all the hanging files. So DC had sort of instantly lost my submission, and they, about 70% of the submissions were from artists, and about 30% were from writers. So instead of contacting me and saying, hey, sorry, we lost your stuff, can you resend? They just took a guess and sent me the packet they had put together for artists. And I was outraged in the way only a 19-year-old can be outraged. And so I composed this letter to Dick Giordano, who, ended up being a huge mentor to me, but was also at the time the executive editor at DC Comics. And I wrote how unprofessional I thought this was, and that I was a professional, which was a lie because I never sold anything before. So obviously I kept copies of my work. If you needed it, you could have just asked me. That would have been fine. Things happen. But this is very unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. And this is, again, so long ago that, this was a letter. I typed a letter, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and stuck it in the U.S. mailbox on campus. And I'll tell you that within seconds of having put it in the mailbox, I was like, what have I done? I'm never going to work in comics ever. This was the dumbest thing I ever did. And I had one friend back then who, this was long before the geeks inherited the earth. I had one friend who read comics, and I told him about this, and he just laughed at me, as good friends do. And so later I'm in my dorm room. I mean, probably a couple weeks later, I'm in my dorm room, and my roommate didn't read comics, and our phone rang because we had a landline back then, only we didn't call it a landline. We called it a phone. And my roommate picked it up, and he holds the phone out to me and says, some guy named Dick Giordano wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking that it's my buddy Doug. There's no way Dick Giordano is going to call me. So I get on the phone, and I'm like, so this is Dick Giordano, with that dripping with sarcasm. And a voice that is clearly not my friend Doug on the other end of the line says, yeah, this is Dick Giordano. Is this Greg Weisman? And I immediately realized, because no one else knows about this, that this is actually Dick Giordano. And I'm like, first I write this dumbass letter, then I get on the phone in this dumbass way. But somehow Dick was cool, and he said, I read your letter. It was a good letter, and you're right. We should have been better. And he said, are you going to be in New York anytime soon? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there. And this was like early February. I'm like, I'm going to be there in March. He's like, all right, I'll put you on with my assistant. We'll make an appointment. You come in. So he does, and I make an appointment for a day in March that's during my spring break. But of course, I had no plans to go to New York prior to this, and had to figure out, I lived in California. How the hell am I going to get to New York? How am I going to pay for this? And I wound up, my dad had mileage, and he gave me the miles so I could fly there. And I had a cousin who lived in Manhattan, and I crashed on her couch. And it's a much longer story, but I figured that's long enough. The short version from here is that I met with Dick and started freelancing for DC in 1983 when I was 19 years old.
Of all the origins, that is a powerful one. And then, I mean, you would go on to write unbelievable things like Captain Atom. But we brought you on because the comic you have on FOC this Monday is tied to animation as well. And that is another thing you are very heavily tied to. Can you talk about your big hit show, Gargoyles, and what you are doing now?
So in 1994, starting in 91, I created a show for Disney TV animation called Gargoyles, and then produced the show with Frank Parr, which premiered in the fall of 94. We ran for 2 seasons, 65 episodes, 13 the first year, 52 the second year. And I've been trying to, keep the flag alive with the help of the great Gargoyles fans that are out there. Keep the flag flying, I guess I should say. And we've been doing comics for the last few years with Dynamite that are canon for the series. We reprinted the old SLG comics that I had done in the 2000s. The 18 issues I did for SLG, and those went out as part of a my brain's not working right now. What do you call it?
Crowdfunded?
Yeah, crowdfunded. Thank you. And we've been doing multiple Gargoyles series. We did 12 issues of Gargoyles called Here in Manhattan. We did 6 issues of Gargoyles Dark Ages, 5 issues of Gargoyles Quest, 5 issues of Gargoyles Demona, Halloween special, a couple winter specials. We did a non-canon crossover with the Fantastic Four, one with Marvel, one with Dynamite. We did a Gargoyles Darkwing Duck crossover, which was bizarre but a lot of fun. And now we are launching a new ongoing Gargoyles title that comes out in August and FOC this coming week, I think. And it is Gargoyles #1. And yeah, there's one of the covers right there. And really happy with this book. The pencils and inks are by Gerardo Gambone. The colors are by Robbie Bavard. And I just thrilled. The first issue's done. It looks terrific. The second issue is in the works. I'm in the middle of writing the third issue now. And I'm incredibly excited about it. This is a story that I've wanted to tell for a very long time, and I'm also thrilled that the title is ongoing. But of course, an ongoing title depends on sales to stay ongoing, so FOC is incredibly important.
It is, but I have to say, Gargoyles has a history on that. I mean, obviously, as you said, from season 1 to season 2, the sheer jump in episodes, it has seen success consistently, and while being off the air for decades, you continued it in the comics through slave labor graphics, and then again 2 decades completely off the air when it was picked up by Dynamite. I didn't think this was going to come back to the power that it did, but when you guys launched #1 of Gargoyles a few years back, it was the highest selling Dynamite book with over 100,000 copies on the issue #1.
Close to 200,000.
Close to 200,000. I mean, that's huge numbers for a publisher like Dynamite. So clearly the fans exist for Gargoyles, and they're here for it. This is now an ongoing series. So what is the approach? How are you going to get all of the fans back in the seats with this new #1?
Well, my goal for this is that I obviously want it to work for hardcore fans, for people who've stuck with the show, stuck with me for all these years, and there are a lot of them. But I also need it and want it to work for people who are new to the property. So I'm very consciously making this a great sort of on-ramp for the series. If you've never read a single Gargoyles comic, if you've never seen a single episode of the TV series, this issue 1 brings you not literally all the history. That would take 800 pages probably, but everything you need to know is present in this first issue. And as you need to know more, that'll come in the issues that follow. But you will get all the key information you need. So if you've never read a Gargoyles comic before, this is a great on-ramp to do that. We want new fans. We always want new fans. We've had Gargoyles fans are the best in the world. I know every creator says that about their fandom. Some of them even mean it, but I'm right. They really are terrific, and I look forward to their response to this. It's exciting to me, but we want new fans, and sometimes we get new fans because people who were kids or teenagers or young adults back in the day, they're now showing it to their kids. The TV show is on Disney Plus, so if you want to watch those old episodes, they exist. They're there. If you want to read those old comics, there are definitely ways to get them now, easier than it used to be. But we have this new series coming out, and this is a great starting point for anyone new.
Okay, so if our viewers are new readers and they've never heard of these Gargoyles before, can you give us a quick explanation on who Goliath and his crew are and what they're doing in New York City?
Right. So the Wyvern clan of Gargoyles existed in the 10th century. They guarded this castle called Wyvern or Wyvern Castle. I am incredibly inconsistent about how I pronounce that. And I have no excuse, since the name was created by Michael Reeves, who was our head writer on the first season. And I have consistently been inconsistent on how I pronounce Wyvern or Wyvern. The castle was overrun and sacked. The Gargoyles were betrayed by one of the humans they trusted the most, and by one of their own, the gargoyle Demona. And the few survivors from the massacre of the Wyvern clan were put under a spell that they would sleep until the castle rises above the clouds, which in those days was considered impossible. So it was, in essence, until kingdom come, basically. But they didn't count on 20th century technology and a billionaire named David Xanatos, who dismantles the castle and rebuilds it brick by brick on top of the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan, which is above the clouds. And the Gargoyles awaken in 1994. They are befriended by a New York City police detective named Elisa Maza, and they have all sorts of adventures. There's Goliath. There's a trio of young warriors, Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway. There is the older warrior Hudson, and the gargoyle beast Bronx. They're later joined in the clan. Lisa becomes, in essence, a unofficial, or rather, honorary member of the clan. But they are also joined by Goliath's daughter Angela, by Brooklyn's mate Katana, his son Nash, and an gargoyle egg that is yet to hatch and is one of the big question marks of this new series, because Demona has stolen that egg. And when that egg hatches, the hatchling bonds with whatever gargoyle is standing in front of it. So if the clan doesn't get the hatchling back before it pair bonds with Demona, then she's the one who gets to raise this hatchling as opposed to the clan. So they're desperate to recover this egg. And they're also joined by Coldfire, who is a haunted robot with the soul of a gargoyle inside it. And so this is our clan now. There's another beast, Foo Dog, also, who is a gargoyle beast from China. And I'm doing a sort of patchwork job of remembering all the characters here. But again, as you need to know who they are, they're all introduced in the series. You don't need to have heard this spiel here, but they're all introduced in the book. And but it's a great group of characters. I just love writing these characters. I have the actors' voices in my head, so it keeps me honest and keeps their dialogue in character. They're all really unique. None of them can say each other's lines. It's all very, very specific. And it's a great deal of fun for me, and I think it'll be a great deal of fun for all our readers, new and old.
And I mean, that's always an interesting thing. You say it, and you're right. Like, when I read Gargoyles, the voices of these A-list actors of the 90s, like half of the cast of Star Trek, it feels like, are the voices I have. And I'm very curious how new readers will take these voices in their head. But one thing, as you said, this show originally came out in 1994, and this was set in the 90s at a time period when phones or phone lines, landlines, were just called phones. People used the U.S. Postal Service to mail things. And the comic is still set in the 90s.
Yeah, we're in December of 1997 in issue 1. I'm not afraid to catch up, but I'm not in a hurry to catch up. So the show ran from 94 to 96. The comics that I did for SLG were set in late 96, early 97. And all the Dynamite comics I've done, all of them except the ones that are flashbacks to the past, all of the modern ones have been set in 1997. Now we're finally in December of 97, and in a few issues we'll finally cross over into, oh my God, 1998. But for now we're still in 1997. If you watch the TV show, the only thing really that dates it, from my point of view, seriously, is that no one has a cell phone. And the only person who does have a cell phone is David Xanatos, because he's a billionaire, and his cell phone is the size of a brick, and with a big, long antenna on it, because in the 90s, those were the only people who had cell phones, the very, very rich. But otherwise, I think the show is pretty timeless. It still works. Again, I recommend people watch it on Disney Plus. You don't need to appreciate the comic, but it's going to enhance your experience, obviously. And I'm very proud of this series, and I want people to watch it. And yeah, so no, that's the big technology shift, because we were a cartoon. We had sort of slightly advanced sci-fi sort of concepts. Some of them are still slightly advanced, and we also had a big cannon that fired a banana cream pie. So we had a lot of fun stuff.
So in our new adventure in 1997, the first potential hatchling of a new gargoyle in centuries, would that be safe to say?
In this clan, yeah, that's true. It's definitely been centuries, and in any case, in any clan across the globe, it's been 20 years since there's been any hatching. So, but for this clan, this one egg is the only egg they have, and they haven't had a newborn in nearly 1,000 years.
So a huge deal. And then to be betrayed once again by the same person, Demona, is quite the threat. But is this the only threat that these gargoyles are facing this round? I assume
not. So we've got a slow burn plot that we're doing, where an ancient figure of chaos is about to rise. I'm not going to give it away. I think old time fans may guess, and that's fine. But we've got the more immediate storylines. There's an adventure that takes place in this issue that's completely self-contained, but there's the issue of finding the egg, and then there's also the issue of this ancient chaos figure rising up again. So we've got a lot going on. All our characters have individual stories as well. Broadway wants to become an NYPD detective. Lexington is in a long-distance relationship with a gargoyle in London named Amp, and they want to start up a tech company in 1997, 98. And every one of our characters has their own story going. Broadway and Angela are gearing up to have their commitment ceremony, which is the gargoyle equivalent of a wedding. And Goliath and Elisa are trying to figure out how to navigate their interspecies relationship in the 20th century, at the end of the 20th century. So we've got a lot going on in this series, a lot of stories to fuel this ongoing series, and I can't wait to tell them all.
So you hinted at some things that really define themselves as moments in the 90s there. Is this something where people who lived through the 90s are going to catch these, moments and realize like, oh, I can kind of see where this is going? Do you take advantage of your modern knowledge when you're applying these set from 2 decades ago?
Absolutely. It's a lot easier than it was back in the day. Because among other things, we have the internet was a baby when we were doing this show. We couldn't do research on the internet back then. It wasn't there. It didn't exist in any real way. Now, I literally am researching. I timestamp all these stories, so exactly. It's not like vaguely 97. No, it's December 27th, 1997. And I do all sorts of research as to what's happened, and what happened on those days and on those dates. And sometimes I make little slight adjustments and sort of, wink and say, hey, Gargoyles universe was a little bit different than ours, but and obviously I'm throwing gargoyles into the mix, but I try to keep the history as accurate as I possibly can. And there's a story in issue 1, the sort of self-contained main story of this plot that is based on an absolutely true story from 97, 98, something that really did happen. And it's right there in issue 1, because it was a great story. I'm like, we got to do something with this, and so we did.
That is awesome. So as we're diving into this as an ongoing, how far ahead are you on plotting through this new series?
So I'm breaking right now issue 3, but I have the story locked in through the first 12. I don't pretend I have every single detail locked down for the first 12, but I know the basic arc of the first dozen issues. But I also, because it's ongoing, because it's not a maxi series or a mini series, anything like that, I'm trying to stay flexible so that if a issue sort of leads me to a story that's maybe kind of a one-off that follows a couple of the characters off to the side here, I'm okay with that. You know, I don't need every story to pull its weight towards the main plot, right? If we've sort of in Discovery, if my editor Nate Cosby and I sort of find this story that we want to go off and tell, we're going to do that because it's an ongoing book. And the show was like that back in the day. You know, there were a lot of stories that drove towards the main arc of the series, but there were a lot of stories that I don't want to say were one-off because everything mattered. Any character that we introduced in what you might call a one-off episode would come back and play a role later. But I don't mind sort of taking these little detours now because we're not locked into, oh, we've got to end this story by issue 6 or by issue 5 or by issue 12. So that kind of thing, I think, is one of the great flexibilities of having an ongoing title. It's great fun for me.
Yeah. We have a question in the comments. One of our viewers was wondering, aside from Hudson, were all the others Rookery brothers?
Goliath is a different generation from Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway. So Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway are all Rookery brothers. Goliath is a generation older. I think Hudson might be 2 generations older than Goliath. And Angela would have been the generation 2 generations younger than the trio. But because she was raised on Avalon, where time passes differently, and because Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway were frozen in stone asleep for 1,000 years, they wound up being, Angela's actually slightly, just a few months older than Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway. So she's an essence of their generation, although she wouldn't have been if it hadn't been for all this magical interference that got in the way. She would have been much younger.
So one thing I want to point out, we were not able to get any advance art to share on here, but you have an amazing artist on this series, Gerard Gambone. Is he just doing our opening arc? Is he going to be the ongoing artist? Do we have any knowledge on this?
He's the ongoing artist. He's in it for the long haul. I mean, I can't speak for him, and I don't know. I'm happy to have him as long as he wants to do it, and as long as he's having fun. And right now, I am confident that he and Robbie and I are having a lot of fun. We have a lot of emails between the 3 of us, and we are having a good time. I can't guarantee he's going to be on the book forever, but right now the plan is for the 3 of us to go the distance on this thing.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this new series. I want to reiterate to everyone that if you are a longtime Gargoyle fan or just want to discover it, you need to reach out to your local comic shop before this Monday to get the orders. It drops August 12th with issue number 2 FOCing August 17th and having a September 9th release date. This looks just so amazing and is just so much of the 90s, not only in its story, but my memories of this unbelievable TV show. And I am so beyond excited to return to it after having several years away from the last main Gargoyle title. Greg, for anyone who is trying to track down more information about this series or what else you're working on, where can people find you online?
I'm on X, at Greg_Weisman. But I'll be honest, I've limited my time on X. I enjoyed Twitter. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. I don't enjoy X. So the best way to find me is to go to my own website, which is askgregweisman.com. So all one word, askgregweisman.com. There I answer questions. I am admittedly years behind in my answering because I can't keep up. People have way more questions than I have time to answer. But what's great about AskGregWeisman.com is that there is an archive of every answer to every question I've done over the last 20 plus years. And it's a searchable archive. So you can, there are categories. You can find a category. If you've got a question about Goliath, you can go to the Goliath's category and all the answers are there. And then there's also a search function, so you can search within there. If you've got a question about Demona, question about the comic series, any of that stuff, there are categories, and it's all searchable. And the odds are really good that if you've got a question about Gargoyles, I've probably answered it over the last 25 years. And so before you post a question, I actually on the website say, before you post, please look and see whether or not the question's already been answered. And I also have answered questions there about Young Justice, Ad Infinitum, Spectacular Spider-Man, Witch, all the shows and comics that I've worked on over the years, Captain Atom even, going back to the 80s. And so, like I said, it is a massive archive because I've been doing it for 25 years. But if you have a brand new question, you can post it. It just might take me a year or two to get to yours because it's a queue, and your question may not get answered that quickly. There's also a great fan website, the letter S, the number 8.org, s8.org. And you can go into their comment room, and those fans are incredibly well educated about Gargoyles and can probably answer your questions. I stop by there occasionally, not very often, but every once in a while to say hello. But the fans are there, and they know a lot. And then we also have a wiki,
which is a very, very useful tool for Gargoyles.
Yeah, which I literally use, for reference for Gerardo and Robbie, and I refer to all the time. It's gargwiki.net, and this is not one of those fandom it's not one of the sort of fandom wikis full of advertisements and stuff like this. This is an actual wiki made by the fans that I work with the people on that wiki to keep it up to date, and it is a massive endeavor and really impressive. And like I said, I use it for reference all the time because my poor memory, there's a limit to what I can contain in my head, so I'm constantly referring to it.
I love it.
.net.
All right. So, I mean, clearly Gargoyles, as you worded it wonderfully, how is some of the best fans out there, and you can see it all the way. Their love and consistency over the decades, the groups and community, even the gatherings of the Gargoyles are a solid thing. But now is a chance, if you are not one of those, join the community, join the love of these incredible winged creatures and heroes of New York, and get a pre-order in at your local comic shop for Gargoyles #1 before this Monday. Greg, any last words while we have you?
I mean, just the FOC, man. That's the name of the game in comics. It's great if you walk into a comic book store and you happen to come upon an issue of Gargoyles and you say, oh, I'm going to grab that. That's terrific. But let's be honest, if we're trying to keep an ongoing series alive, what matters in this day and age is pre-orders. Nothing matters more, frankly. And that's what will keep this series going, is getting that order in before the FOC, so that the stores know, and Dynamite knows, and Disney knows that this book has fans, has readers, and they want to keep it going. And so it's incredibly important. And what you do, Matthias, matters so much. I can't even tell you.
Well, I thank you on that, and I'm hoping that it matters enough that with your super talented writing and Gambone's amazing art, you guys can break 250,000, maybe even 300,000 on this run.
I'm good with that. From your lips, man.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Greg. I cannot wait for the return of Gargoyles, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Remember, everyone, go get your orders to your LCS. Thank you so much for joining us, Greg. Again, a huge honor, like from Gargoyles to Rebels, Young Justice, and everything in between, even those classic tales of Captain Atom. It is a great honor, and I cannot wait to read the newest tales of Goliath, Demona, and the rest of the crew.
Well, thanks, Matthias. I really appreciate you having me on, and you know how to reach me. Anytime you want me, I can be here.
Thank you so much. We'll see, if we can continue this for year 2 of the ongoing series for Gargoyles.
That'd be great.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys. So that's just one of the amazing books that are on FOC this week. And, well, it is one of the ones I am most excited about. We have a lot of books we need to talk about over at Penguin Random House and Lunar Distribution. So let's hop on over to prhcomics.com to continue this with some more amazing books that you guys can order. I am on Lunar, of course, right now, but let's pop on over to Penguin Random House. And as you can see, easy way to scroll through this, a lot of great books and a lot of continuing books, which many of you guys know about and are very familiar. So let's talk about some of the more spotlight things that are big new jumping on points or things you might not have heard of, like the many things that you could be afraid of. And I feel this is a book that just, screams to, our producer, Kyle, who I assume is afraid of everything. No, afraid of nothing.
I don't know why you would make that assumption. Spiders, heights, going outside, other people, bread that is moldy. Like, okay, I have a fair amount of fears, okay? But I'm not afraid of everything. I read horror comics.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I, on the other hand, could use a list of all the things I could be afraid of. And that is where this wonderful all ages book is, as it literally walks us through everything from arachnophobia to zoophobia. A incredibly beautiful book. This is a new release from IDW, very affordable approach, where each page is a single page story about a different A to Z fear. A great horror anthology for people like Kyle to people like Kyle's nephew. This is a great all ages piece and a wonderful way to trickle the nightmares into your kids, at bedtime reading. Then, on a very different realm, the realm of heroes faces yet another threat as Avengers Armageddon continues to roll forward. Avengers Armageddon had a massive start with that Magic the Gathering card in its first issue, going to 2 printings, and it is just getting stronger under the brilliant writing of Chip Zdarsky. This is basically a Marvel event without the massive realm of crossovers. It really seems to be tied really tightly between Avengers Armageddon and Captain America, with a few little spin-offs. But I am fully invested in this run, and the unbelievable selection of covers on this are great. Not to mention the continuation of our Pixar 40th anniversary covers, because I always forget that oh my God, now I can't even remember. Brave was a Pixar film. I always think of it as a Disney film. but Phil Noto doing an awesome Merida cover right there as well. I am sorry. My mind is in 5 million places, and all of them is still New York City in the 90s with Gargoyles. So trying to continue rolling on. Let's talk about something completely different. Chainsmoker Cat. Chainsmoker Cat is a popular manga series about addiction, and it takes addiction to another level with a popular anime currently out. Nyan Nyan Factory brings us a story of a young cat girl who is the type of addicted smoker that she will be finding butts on the ground to relight. And in it, we get a very honest and dark tale of how bad addiction can affect people, while giving us the cutesy overtones of cat girls and beast people in this unique other world. It is, I want to say, an anthropomorphic way of looking at a very serious condition in a somewhat lighthearted way. But having just started the manga, it's really impressed me, and I think this is definitely one to put on people's radar.
I'm going to make a very inside baseball reference to Matthias that maybe only he will get. You know how I feel about cigarettes, Carl. Anyway.
Oh, man, I don't know what dungeon that joke crawled out of, but well done. Well done, sir. All right. Another great collection of comics. Dark Horse is bringing us Chrononauts, all the volumes, one omnibus, $30. If you have not read Sean Gordon Murphy and Mark Miller's unbelievable tale of two tech bros who travel through time and screw everything up, this is the Back to the Future of the 2010s, if you were to ask me. But
yeah,
fun series. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you really had an answer to throw in that. We're gonna be really choppy today. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah, no, well, Chrononauts is an omnibus. I'm having this debate in my brain about am I ordering it or not? Because I have all the single issues, I have all the trades, and I have all of the random. You had to meet Mark Millar at conventions. Do I need another omnibus? I think I do, especially for $30.
Well, and it's a great one to share with everyone, because if you've not read Chrononauts, this is one of my favorite of the 2010s Mark Miller. This was a really great one. It had amazing covers, all of which will be collected in this omnibus, but just fun stuff. Fun, goofy stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about one that you're very familiar with, having almost been arrested in a moment related to this. Crownsville.
So if you don't know the story of Crownsville, and I've told this story a bunch of times on the air, so if you're hearing it for the 80th, 1000th time, I see you, Jay. So Crownsville is a mental hospital in Maryland, and it was specifically a mental hospital for people of color. And as you know, as anybody who's studied history knows, that didn't always go so good. They turned into places that were, horror shows. And so Rodney Barnes, who's from Maryland, who's from near Crownsville, actually, starts writing this supernatural story about this place. And it's supernatural, it's horror, it's all of these things, but at no point is any of it totally inaccurate to what Crownsville State Hospital was. And so I decided to go visit. Now, Crownsville Hospital has been closed for years and years and years and years and years. Across the street from Crownsville, there is a memorial park where it's got all of the history of the hospital and what's going on laid out on these boards. And I went to the park, and I was actually live on the EXP when I went. And I almost got arrested because I parked in a federally protected area, which is the Crownsville Hospital. It's crumbling in on itself. They're ready to let nature take it back. But yeah, it wound up being a real life adventure when I almost got arrested going to visit Crownsville to talk about this comic. The only reason I didn't get arrested is that.
Live here on the EXP, I want to point out.
Right. The only reason that I didn't get arrested is that the cops knew Rodney Barnes. So it was one of those interesting moments. But what makes that all relevant and why we're talking about it on FOC show is that this book on FOC this week is the whole story. It's the whole volume 1 of Crownsville, particularly the supernaturally bits and the horror stuff that Rodney laid over this already fascinating and interesting story before you get to my near arrest. So this is a fun way to not have your own life flash before your eyes with a bunch of cops. So I would read this rather than visiting the place. Let's put it that way.
But I mean, it is one of those things that there is some historical value brilliantly placed in this too, that as well as societal, cultural, moments that are well worth bringing to your awareness. I would compare this as a paranormal horror equivalent of that opening scene of the Watchmen HBO series, in that this could be very eye-opening to a large amount of Americans of a horrific part of American history that shouldn't simply disappear. It should be something we are frighteningly aware of to prevent things like this from happening again. And this is a way of truly frightening you by adding that paranormal twist.
Right. This is always read as what happens if Shawshank meets The Exorcist, but not all of the things in it are untrue. And hey, Jay, I have a finger I need you to look at, buddy.
All right. Continuing on, we have 2 issues, not one, but 2 issues of Daredevil on FOC in the same week. Stephanie Phillips and Lee Garbet's constant sell out of an amazing new series for our blind attorney and master protector of Hell's Kitchen is just kicking butt with this run. 4 issues, all sold out, all going to new printings. So now issue number 5 is FOCing at the same time as issue number 6. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure that Kyle can throw an opinion there, but
no, I'm trying to figure out what's coming up calendar-wise that would need to have a skip week. That Marvel would need to have a skip week, and I can't foresee it. Maybe something, I don't know. Needless to say, there are jokes I could make, but I won't because, well, let's put it this way, they're not fully baked yet. But there are some incredible covers for these Daredevil books. We are having to FOC them back at the same time, which is the dumbest thing. And retailers will hate it, and people will scream and yell on the internet. And as a result, these books will be under-ordered if you don't tell people what you want.
And that's the emphasis. We always have to remind you, this is the perfect time where you reaching out to your local comic shop matters the most, because it is hard to place orders even 3 to 6 weeks out, let alone when you're talking about books that are going on sale in September. So keep in mind, if you know what covers you want, if you know that you need to keep reading Stephanie's unbelievable Daredevil run, it is worth telling your local comic shop you want these books, so that way you can get the covers you're looking for. You can guarantee you're not missing out and having to get the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th printings of this book that keeps selling out because we're just not able to keep up with the demand and orders.
Right. And like I said, Marvel is clearly playing some kind of game here. That's going to happen. It always happens. But again, the note here is that because of this, you're going to have people who don't order enough because I'll show Marvel, I won't order as many. And then you're not going to get them because you didn't pre-order them.
Definitely true. Now, speaking about books that are hard to get, let's talk a little bit about Hellraiser. Clive Barker's Hellraiser #1, back in the day when Boom first got it, is getting a facsimile edition. And yes, it is written by Clive Barker, along with the incredible Christopher Monfett and Leonardo Manco. names I don't really get to see anymore on comics. But we are finally getting this book back in print. Now, Kyle, you were telling me this is a hard book to track down.
Yeah, this one in particular. And here's what I will say, and I want to be super clear about this when I talk to people. It's not that this book is ridiculously expensive when you find it, but you don't find it because Clive Barker fans don't sell their Clive Barker stuff, which they shouldn't. It's great. I have a Pinhead figure that I had a guy offer me an amount of money for that I'm wildly uncomfortable with turning down, but it's my only Pinhead figure, and I'm struggling because I'm a Clive Barker fan. So you got to do the thing in this book in particular where the facsimile may have to do you. Just because you're not going to find this book. I mean, I just on a whim, I went to the Electronic Bay and started looking, and for $100, you can get all 13 issues. You can get all 20 for $240. Like, those are the offers on eBay right now. This book does not exist on the secondary market for sale by itself. So getting the facsimile may be your only option if you want one.
And I mean, I see no reason not to, with Boom obviously pushing and very bluntly hinting at a big return, because now that they have Hellraiser back, we're going to see some amazing things this fall. And we've already hinted a little bit when we had Teenie Howard on as a guest a few weeks back. But keep an eye out. Take a look on Penguin Random House for some amazing Hellraiser one-shots we'll be seeing in September and talking about in the weeks to come here on the FOC show. But
listen, if Matthias and I are going to get in trouble on this show, we're going to do it for a reason. And we got in big trouble talking to Teenie about this character. Okay? So, like, maybe wink and a nod at that one, huh? Like, we're not out here trying to get these people angry at us. But if we are, it's for a reason.
There it is. All right, some more Cenobite fun. Let's talk about something notably lighter than Cenobites. I like cat butts. Not me personally. I'm not a huge cat person, but I know a lot of people who are watching love their cats.
I like cat butts, and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. Anyway.
But I just got to read it this way. It's easy to love everything about a cat. And one cat owner truly loves everything about her cat, especially its butt. It's positively hysterical in this comic about hilarious antics of a woman and her cat, which has a butt. Yes, this is a manga series, a series about a cat lady and a cat butt. No joke. Naneon brings us what is going to be a delightful seller that I think will be an evergreen product, because that's how cat manga work in any shop that sells manga. You can not carry cat manga. And look, cat butts. Kyle likes cat butts. She just renamed the series.
Oh, I don't. I just like the amount of money that cat people spend on cat butts.
Yeah. Quite some coverage right there, too.
That said, this is one of those manga that will have incredibly long legs that will be around for a lot of years. And again, will likely sell out from your shop, especially, again, if you have a shop that is not maybe the biggest manga order, but they order some. This is one that's going to appeal to a much broader range than cigarette addicted cat girls that we had earlier. This appeals to a lot more people, so it's going to be a bigger book.
All right. Can we come up with a title crazier than I Like Cat Butts? Volume 1. I think we can. On FOC this week, the prose novel, I Punched an Alien and Now We're in Couples Therapy. God, if I had a dime for every time.
Well, I'm not going to make the joke I made before the air because I don't want the alien that I was talking about coming after me. But
the joke was that my wife is not an alien too.
Right, your wife is a Canadian alien. which
Ah,
is
there it
funny,
is.
like in that regard. But no, I don't want her coming after me for making that joke. But the reality is, listen, if you punch an alien, we've learned from Dungeon Crawler Carl that nothing good happens when you punch space aliens, except that you get to go deeper into a dungeon.
Well, and I want to point out, much like the scenario where I would never punch my wife, just to be very, very clear, it's more likely she would punch me. The fun twist in this wonderful prose piece is it is a young woman who punches an alien warlord and now is coupled with him in adventures. Oh, where's this going, Kyle? This is an emotional response. So, classic twist on,
Never punch an
prose.
alien.
What?
Never punch an alien. They have space lasers and probes. And now you have to go on adventures with them?
Or continue the rom-coms of an equally amazingly titled prose piece. I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. So, wonderful continuing adventures of Blair and her adventures on an alien world. Kimberly Lemming, just bringing some unique twists that, I don't know, just sometimes fun ways to break it up. I feel we've been talking about a lot of not traditional comic things on this
right.
episode.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that this week has a lot of that, and it's always a good week when it does, because it lets shops and it lets customers diversify what they're reading. I punched an alien, and now we're in couples therapy. Like, I remember when that time I was reincarnated as a slime came out. I had no interest in this manga, but the title in and of itself was enough to go, well, I guess I'm buying that. Same here. I've read the premise of this manga. This is not something I would normally read, but that title is just too interesting that I got to give it a shot now. So when you think about these non-traditional things, like this kind of manga, like some of these more off-the-wall comic titles, some of these more off-the-wall storytelling concepts, it's a great chance to expand into something you wouldn't have otherwise read and find something you really like.
Indeed. All right. One more thing I want to talk about before we dive back into more traditional Western comics is perhaps one of the greatest Eastern tales ever. My favorite manga, Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima's Lone Wolf and Cub. Now, for ages in America, Dark Horse had been producing these as little tiny Bonkobon formats, smaller than the traditional Tonkobon. And you lose so much of Goseki Kojima's incomparable artwork, Kazuo Koike's phenomenal lettering. And I am so thankful that Dark Horse is finally giving us these very, very large format hardcovers with the deluxe editions. And this continues with the third volume of these beautiful pieces. They look like classic, leather-bound novels. They are massive, each one containing 3 of the Bonkobon volumes in there. So this will get us up through traditional volume number 9 of Lone Wolf and Cub, which I believe is pretty much the entirety of what we got at First Publishing when First Comics was doing this back in the 70s and 80s. Or in the 1980s. So Lone Wolf and Cub Deluxe Edition. If you have not driven into this is the classic samurai story. It is the basis for things like Shogun Assassin, for The Mandalorian. It is referenced even in great things and pulls very heavily to the ideas of Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. You cannot miss out on this amazing manga series. Reach out to your local comic shop, get volume 1, volume 2, and order volume 3. Now, talking about big omnibuy, let's go back to the Western world, and one that is getting a lot of attention because the creator of it, well, he loves to run his mouth, and yet, because he is who he is, we love to eat it up. Rob Liefeld has a new collection in a New Mutants Omnibus Volume 4. Now, Rob has been talking about this era of the New Mutants a lot on social media recently, so it's almost perfectly timed that we get this collection of Wheezy Louise Simonson, Rob Liefeld, and Fabian Niciez's unbelievable New Mutants run that would introduce Cable and Deadpool and so many others. You're getting Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld artwork, and there are two amazing covers, whether you want the classic first appearance of Cable or the alternative first appearance of Deadpool, which of course is not showing here, but we can quickly draw up by going to that main page and scrolling through to right here. So this is the direct market exclusive cover, that New Mutants 98 variant right there. But whether you love or hate Rob, you have to understand this was an epic run of X books. This was something that changed a lot of that era in superhero tales. And it introduced two iconic heroes amongst realistically notably others. Some covers that have been homaged more times than almost any others. This was an unbelievable era for the mutants. So,
And there was a lot of this time where Rob was homaging himself, over the years, homaging these books. This is an important run of New Mutants, if for no other reason. Then you get to New Mutants 100, which is thankfully the book that crosses over the New Mutants into so much other important stuff. So I like this volume. I like that this is happening. But yeah, sometimes Rob needs to be a little less overt with his, the greatest era was when I was writing New Mutants. Oh, we have a New Mutants omnibus coming out. Huh, I wonder why you're saying that. Anyway.
All right, well, let's talk about a very different omnibus. One of my favorite Boom series, surprisingly, isn't Hellraiser, but it's Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora's excellent tale about a man and his grandmother. And while that may not sound like the pitch that would normally sell you on something, let me throw out there that it also involves an undead King Arthur looking to take over the world. The story of Once and Future was originally meant to be a short, several-issue miniseries that became an ongoing that, in my mind, is the only thing of the modern era we get that is truly comparable to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As a young, goofy kid and his grandmother must go on an adventure once he discovers his grandmother was the great hunter. Werewolves, vampires, the reason you think they're fake and have never heard of them is this man's grandmother who had defeated them all. But when an excavation in England comes across Excalibur, King Arthur will come back at any cost to take over the world. And only these two people can bring him down. An epic tale with Dan Mora artwork throughout the unbelievable form. This is a steal of a deal. Like when you see those Invincible and Walking Dead compendiums, the Saga compendiums, and you're like, that is some great storytelling for an affordable price. This is the thing that needs to sit right next to those in your collection and be instantly ordered. If you have, for any reason, never read Once and Future, this is a book that will blow your mind, and I beyond adore.
If you're one of those kids who read the Once and Future King at Magneto from the original X-Men movies recommendations, this is a great sort of spin on that book. Whether you know it or not, it's a very similar legend with a lot of the same concepts, except this is done significantly better than that. Once and Future King, a great novel, but this is some of the most transcendent graphic storytelling I think that has happened in a long time. And this is going to be a beautiful omnibus of an incredible story.
Yeah, no, I am absolutely adoring it. Like, all 30 issues. I mean, they've done so many like trade paperbacks, slipcase hardcovers. This, I want to say it went to over like 10 printings for just issue number 1 alone, and countless printings throughout. This is the series, and I would not be shocked if one day this became a TV series with Hulu having dropped Buffy from its return. This, in my opinion, is the chance of a modern Buffy. It is fun. It is goofy. The characters are all lovable. As as it's thrown in the comments, Gran is a just unbelievable character that you will fall in love with. Such a great series. All right. Let's get to some modern Western floppy books, because I know that's what many of you guys adore. And one that we always have to make sure is on your radar, because it is quite the kerfuffle of ordering right now, is Queen in Black issue number 3. I'm sure many of you are saying, wait a second, Queen in Black issue number 3? I don't even have Queen in Black issue number 1. Because, well, we FOC'd it months ago. It still doesn't drop for another few weeks. Queen in Black is just going to be pushing out so quickly as a Marvel event. It is blowing my mind that such a big deal. The sequel to King in Black, Al Ewing, Ivan Coelho, Paco Medina, just all-star creative team dealing with the symbiotes of the Marvel Universe. How is it we're already ordering issue number 3 with 0 sales data? No one has read issue number 1. It's a headache, but I would like to think that you guys know if you want this series. The problem is your local comic shop doesn't. So this is very important to look through here, take a look at the covers, read the solicits, find out about the spin-offs, like Queen in Black. Oh, man, like when you don't prep these things in advance, it gets horrible. Like Queen in Black, Defenders of the Light, and others. Let your local comic shop know what it is you want so they can safely place these orders. Because as Kyle referenced earlier, there are problems where we as comic shop owners, as comic shop ordering managers, are going to reduce our orders as series go on. And subscribers will help us base our ordering numbers. Be the subscriber that talks with your comic shop, that communicates with them and lets them know what you want. So you're not trying to chase down a number 3 that has sold out because we had to place orders before issue number 1 even released. This is going to be a hard one on your local comic shop to try and figure out the numbers. Help them out if you want this book. All right. I gave an early look on this next graphic novel because it also involves a queen. But this one involves multiple queens in Queens of the Crypt, a very fun, gothy, Rocky Horror Picture Show, all ages-esque tale of sequential art. Our story focuses on a young kid who has had to come out to his parents as non-binary. And as if that wouldn't be a hard enough situation, imagine getting it more complicated when they're when their best friend, I was trying to remember if we had said the gender of the best friend, and that was probably the wrong way of looking at it. I should have just went their best friend is kidnapped by a faceless killer. So now Barnaby Jones, our non-binary hero, must gather the Queens of the Crypt, the Phantom, the Countess, Lady Invisible, the Creature, and the Boogie Woman to help her in a goofy, crazy, out there Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Rocky Horror Picture Show style bit. I don't even know how to best describe this out there sequential art piece.
Well, it's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You put your hands on your hip, bring your knees in tight. It's just the thrust of the story that is very interesting here.
There it is. Yeah.
Didn't think I would get there, did you?
I'm impressed with you. I greatly appreciate it because I needed the saving. I really do apologize. I'm just going to be blunt with everyone. In this exhaustion of preparing for Comic-Con, I have not slept in days. I am dying on this live show. And Hydro Asylum.
And I'm quoting Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I'm putting new information in it. So, it's going to be one of those days, guys. Let's keep moving, Matthias, before we both die.
There it is. All right, let's talk about the big one I've been dying to talk about all week, and this is the big one. Something is Killing the Children, number 50. James, Werther, Mikkel, they're all back, and Erica is back in the modern era. We have a story that is no longer flashback. It is going to be progressing forward. Now, this is released October 7th, so we're ordering this really far in advance. And why is it? because this big epic return, this semi-centennial issue, is got more covers than you can shake a stick at. There are going to be, I want to say, over 100 covers on this book when you include all of the blind bag fun. There are tons of variants, as you can see, a huge amount of beautiful incentives. So you're going to want to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any of these ones with a ratio next to it to see if they're going to be qualifying for it and how much it's going to cost, because it is not likely to be cover price. But there are some amazing things in this. And one of the big ones is the blind bag with over 50 covers inside. Now, what could some of these covers be? Well, thankfully, Boom just posted all of them on Instagram. And you can see some of the percentage chances of getting them, as each of these beautiful new cover pieces that are unique to their bags are going to have multiple formats, like the dressed with the trade dress showing the logo, the full art, the virgin ones, as you will, foil stamped ones, and other variations. Make sure you check out Boom Studios' Instagram to see all of these incredible covers that can be in the contents of your blind bags, including unbelievable ones like glow-in-the-dark designs by Werther Deladera. And you can see these right here, as well as one-of-one hand-numbered metal covers. Metal covers in the blind bag. Now, I've talked with the folks at Boom. Yes, my instant thought was like, metal covers, that's going to stand out. But these guys have really thought this out. They are protecting these things. They are double boarding them. These are not going to be easy to figure out what's in these blind bags. And that's good because there's a lot of really cool, crazy, and rare items in them that is going to make these blind bags super in demand. As if just the return of Erica Slaughter and all of the events post issue 25 in continuity aren't enough. Blumhouse has a series on the way. James is just the all-star writer of the modern era. This is the book on FOC this week, I feel.
Do we finally find out what is killing the children?
I believe it's going to be Swamp Thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but we'll come back to that on a future FOC show. All right. Continuing on. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin. This is the book that still draws more people into comic shops that don't traditionally read comics than I feel any Marvel or DC film truly does. It is insane the numbers this has pulled. It has gone to countless printings. It has had multiple series. In fact, this week it had another one-shot spinoff called Training Day. But if you have not read Last Ronin, and you are one of the few, you need to change that. And this is the very affordable and easy way to do that. With new trade paperbacks, not only of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin, but its sequel, Lost Days, getting trade paperback. I just realized it's not going to link it here. I got to keep shifting over here because I am not as prepared as I normally am when I've had some semblance of sleep.
Well, so while you're figuring it out, I'm going to talk about The Last Ronin a little more. So if you read Lost Ronin Training Days, right, you're starting to see the gaps, right? When Lost Ronin hit, there was this big gap that we had to kind of parse between where Turtles was and where Last Ronin started. And then as you've read Last Ronin and Last Ronin Revolution, Last Ronin Revolution 2, and some of these other stories that have taken place in this universe, there have been story bubbles where, wait. Something has happened and we don't know what it is. And we're finally getting that in these one-shots. So now is the perfect time if you haven't read it all in one shot. Not one shots, but read it all front to back, and maybe you don't have the single issues anymore. You can read it all. Like, this is the way to order them. These are lower printings. They're easier, they're lower prices. They're easier to get. Read it end to end in one big reading. Okay.
All right.
Also, if you need the individual issues, go to your local comic shop, see if they have them.
Some might, yeah. There was a lot of great covers out there. But The cover I'm seeing on screen to a non-comic item reminds me, do we have a prose pick of the week this week, Kyle?
We do. I was just going to walk away because someone knocked on my door for 30 seconds, but I can deal with this. This movie doesn't end the way we want. That's how you have to read this title. Just a second here. I may or may not have closed my tab. So there is this long-running trope, long-running genre of the cursed film subgenre. There have been incredibly great comics that are based on this cursed film subgenre, right? This idea of, what happens when if you watch the movie 2 weeks later, you die. That kind of stuff, or scary movie, or whatever. Anyway, this is the story of a woman who is haunted for a long time by the disappearance of her sister and their best friend when they go to a movie. She's the only one who comes out of the movie. And she, 30 years later, in trying to sort through this, discovers this urban legend. And it isn't until, again, 30 years later, a stranger has this happen to them that she really dives back into what happened to her. And in doing so, you get a great mystery of what actually happened to her sister and their friend. What has actually happened to everyone who watched this cursed movie? I mean, this is written by Haley Piper, who won the Bram Stoker Award for her book Queen of Teeth, which is great horror, by the way. And it's perfect for fans of people who like Andrew Joseph White and other people who really play in this urban legend meets high fantasy meets mystery genre. So, as I said, this movie doesn't end the way we want is a great pickup this week. That's my prose pick of the week.
Well, and another bit of prose that I want to talk about, because we all seem to love horror anthology in this modern era. A brand new horror anthology from the same publisher, Titan Comics, is Unearthed, telling us all these haunting short stories about, ancient ruins and deep discoveries, spelunking tales, and more. With incredible writers doing this, like Cavan Scott, who I absolutely adore, Tim Levin, Eric LaRocca, Jonathan Mayberry. These are a lot of names that you likely are familiar with, not only from prose, but comics. Benjamin Percy. And if you want, this is a perfect way to go from comics that you're enjoying, whether it's things like EC horror to Hello Darkness and the like, into a bit of prose with a similar bite to it. So really fun one. I'm really excited about, gotta love Benjamin Percy and Cavan Scott, from whether it's Wolverine to Star Wars. These guys are great authors. Jonathan Mayberry, classic author who's brought us some great IDW comics. Now I'm ready to dive into some prose with these wonderful fellows.
Now, some of these stories have been published previously in other compilations, anthologies, posted on the internet on some of the different Patreons and what have you. But this is the first time they've all been brought together into one volume. So easier to collect them when they're all together.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up Picking Random House with two quick, easy ones. What if Runaways? Now, this takes the very simple what if that I am shocked we've not already had. But what if the Runaways hadn't ran away? If you recall, their parents were an evil collective of villains on the West Coast. And what would have happened if their kids would have fallen in line with that? Kyle doesn't like that concept, I'll tell you that. He likes running away.
No, I think that listen, Marvel has done a grotesquely bad job with these new what ifs. What if some girl named Jessica, whose last name happens to be Jones, gets bit by a spider? She's not Jessica Jones. She doesn't have the Jessica Jones powers. She just gets bit by a radioactive spider. So she just becomes Spider-Girl? She's not. Then why call her Jessica Jones? It's what if somebody else gets bitten by a spider? right? They've done a number of these now where the premise of the book is bad. They wouldn't be called the Runaways if they didn't run away.
But that's how we know them.
What if a group of mutants had fought their own family? Something. They're not runaways if they don't run away.
Well, I personally am excited on this. Rainbow Rowell returns to our beloved young heroes, making them look a lot less younger in this adventure. And I know that Rainbow has done an unbelievable job with her takes on the Runaways. So I'm excited to see this alternate universe one. I gotta agree. The Stay-at-Homes doesn't have the same style to it that the Runaways do, Kyle.
What if they hadn't run away? Okay, they would have been Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I guess. I don't know. Like, that's a very deep reference, by the way. Anyway, like I said, it's what if Marvel doesn't cause Kyle to have a small stroke, okay?
Well, that's just never going to happen. But let's make it a small book. How about that? Marvel is also doing their wonderful equivalent of the compact edition, the Marvel Premier Collections, that are $15 trades. They haven't been able to figure out the $10 concept that DC, Vault, and Oni have masterfully done, but they're still amazing collections. X-Men, Yesterday's X-Men, gives us our story of the first class of X-Men brought to the modern era by Brian Michael Bendis, Stuart Immonen, and David Marquez. This was an incredible series when it came out around 15 years ago. And I am so excited to be able to hand this to new readers in an affordable new way. So really fun one. If you haven't read this tale, imagine the X-Men of the 1960s suddenly seeing the horrors of the future selves that they have to deal with in the San Francisco era of the X characters.
I will say for all of the animus I had for the last book, I'm very excited for this one. I love these Marvel Premier Collections, the small. I don't mind the $5 extra even, because a lot of times there are major keys in these books that you just can't get other ways. Again, you got to buy an omnibus, you got to buy a big trade paperback. But now I can put it in my back pocket. I can leave it in the car. I can read it while I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment. It's easy to travel, and you get to read these incredibly good X-Men stories. So I'm in love with that volume, with that concept. So I'm very happy with that.
Absolutely. So I want to remind everyone, there was a lot of books that we didn't get a chance to go over on Penguin Random House because there were so many wonderful continuing ongoing series you're likely familiar with. So check out prhcomics.com. Look at all the books on FOC. Look at all the amazing covers and let your local comic shop know what you're looking for. That said, I think we need to pop over to Lunar really quick and rush through that, because there's a lot to go there. First off, The 1000. It is a graphic novel from Sanford Green and Chuck Brown, two award-winning, and amazing creators, giving us an epic battle-style graphic novel. There is a softcover and a hardcover available. We have some continuing series you might have heard of or not. The Absolute series, like Absolute Batman, Absolute Catwoman, and Action Comics. All amazing stories, but I'm certain at this point, you guys know those three titles in the A's, and you just need to choose which covers you want for your local comic shop, because who isn't reading an Absolute title right now, Kyle?
The Ghost of Stan Lee?
No,
No, he's smart enough. He's probably reading them.
Yeah.
I don't know who's not reading an Absolute title. There's no one. Even dead people are reading them.
Yeah. A fun one with the Legion of Superheroes returning to the DC Universe soon. We're getting a reprint of their first appearance in Adventure 247, one of the few comics that have always evaded my collection. I still would kill to own one, and now I can at least have a delightful facsimile edition. Aladdin continues rolling forth from Dynamite and James III. We have more Barbara Gordon breakout, proving orange is the new black cape in Gotham.
Shout out to that beautiful Dave Stockton cover. Or Dave Johnson, sorry. It just reminds me of those classic 70s, like Steven Peele and, some of those great, like, retro futuristic Steranko kind of style art. I just think that's it's the best cover on this series thus far, in my opinion.
All right. Kyle, did you get a chance to read Batman and Robin back when Mark Waid and Chris Samney were putting it out?
I did.
That was an amazing series. And I honestly saw people from all over the industry, not just fans, but people who work in comics for various publishers, go out of the woodwork to track down this book. It was unbelievable. And it was so unbelievable, it's coming back with a sequel that kind of runs as a prequel. Batman and Robin Year One Dynamic Duos gets the pair of Chris Samney and Mark Waid back together for a whole new year of epic tales of Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson in their first year together.
When I interviewed Mark Waid not that long ago, actually at Cherry Capital Comic Con, I asked him about his relationship with Chris Samney. And the thing he said, and this really bears itself out in this book, is that there are a number of things that he would love to write more, but he's only going to do it if Chris Samney wants to. Because they have lightning in a bottle. I do not care about Batman and Robin as a dynamic duo. I didn't care when that series was first announced years ago, right? The original one. But it was those two, and they captured lightning in a bottle and made me love it. I'm very excited for this for that same reason. Those two guys working together it's Brubaker and Phillips. It's, Alan Moore and Alan Moore, the voices in Alan Moore's head. It's, they
Claremont
just do right. Exactly. Claremont and Byrne. There's so many great teams in comics, and they are among them.
I would agree. I love that they're getting the shared writer credit on it too. Mm-hmm. So some big ones that are hits, Batman Night of the Owls Compendium. It's all of that big epic that Scott Snyder started with the New 52, the first year, which is the Court of Owls and Night of Owls and all the tie-ins for it. Really great $60 compendium. I'm loving these $60 compendiums. It's just, thick reading. Like, well, I love the $10 compacts. They're great. Anyone can pick those up. The compendiums are the big, you need a full weekend of reading in one binding. And then we finally get Yen Press at Lunar Distribution. Yen Press before was distributed by Hachette, making it difficult for a lot of comic shops who don't deal as much in those distribution realms of prose and the like to obtain. Now we are getting Yen Press over at Lunar, and one of my most favorite manga ever. I get to talk about two of my biggest ones, Lone Wolf and Cub and Battle Royale, are now accessible. This, much like our Battle Royale, is an oversized deluxe edition hardcover. As far as I'm aware, Volume 1 is not yet at Lunar, but with Volume 2 now finally making its way there, I would assume it is not far behind. You can reach out to your local comic shop to track this down and other great Yen Press manga. We'll talk about Battle Pugs soon. Don't think I forgot about it. We'll come back to that momentarily. Another one where we're having to order in advance is Black Star, coming out next week. This is Kristen Kruk's new comic series. Yes, Kristen Kruk of Smallville fame is doing a comic. Black Star #2. We have to get in a little bit early because it's a glow-in-the-dark cover. There are other cover options that will be available on next week's FOC, just to note. A lot of great continuing series. You should definitely check out lunardistribution.com to notice. Another one where I have to call out because we have to order before the #1 is on stands is Cimmerian Zuthal of the Dusk. Beautiful cover by Ito with some other amazing tales, reprinting the original Robert E. Howard prose along with sequential art, adapting the story that faithfully adapts it utterly uncensored. If Conan beheads somebody, they get beheaded in the comic. If there's nudity or sex in the story, it's in the comic. This is not the censored Conan we're getting at Titan that we got at Marvel or Dark Horse. This is unfiltered Robert E. Howard storytelling. All right. Lots of wonderful ones that you're going to want to skim through Lunar Distribution to find. One I got to give a quick shout out is the complete Gail Simone Red Sonja. I love this. I backed the hardcover on Kickstarter, but now you can grab this as a softcover, thick collection of all 18 issues, technically 19 because the 0 issues in there, of Gail Simone's Red Sonja. If you watch the awesome live action movie, this is where a lot of that story comes from. Obviously, you're a big R.L. Stine fan, Kyle. Did you know that R.L. Stine was doing the Craniacs novels?
I did, but again, only because I'm that guy.
Yeah.
It's you got to wake up pretty early in the morning for R.L. Stine to publish something, and I don't know about it. The thing about the Craniacs guys is well, I mean, you know what the Craniacs are, right? It's think Mad Balls meets Cabbage Patch Kids, in a big way, except that it's got that R.L. Stine sort of crazy. But here's what's cool about these. These are create your own quest books. You can't call them that other thing because that's copyright trademark of somebody else. These are create your own quest. You decide how the book ends. The decisions you make as the reader and what you read determines how this book goes. So these are both of the volumes that are out right now are choose your own or decide your own quests, create your own quest, and these are great for middle grades. They're great for your 4th through 7th graders or so as they're sort of discovering their horror, sort of discovering that sort of thing. So make sure you jump in on these. If you grew up with R.L. Stine and you have a young person in your life who you want to read R.L. Stine, dive in on these. And again, every decision you make matters.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that it's 2 deep dives. Not only is it R.L. Stine, but it's Joe Simcoe doing the covers and doing interior artwork in the book. Joe Simcoe, you might likely remember from the Garbage Pail Kids.
Right. Well, and remember, guys, so you see them there on screen. There's 4 copies, right? You've got hardcovers, you've got paperbacks. The hardcovers are like your library edition Goosebumps, where it was always like, man, this is great. It's hardcover Goosebumps. The trade paperbacks are like the ones that your mom bought you at book fair. Get them in the way that you get nostalgia for. That's my recommendation. All right,
Yeah.
whatever you get nostalgic for is how you're going to want to read these books.
$9 softcover, $20 hardcover. All right. Let's talk about a bad idea. Doing a facsimile 1 year after the first one released. Not a reprint, a facsimile. It's the anniversary director's cut. Okay, so it's not a facsimile. My apologies. An anniversary director's cut 1 year after it was published. Cul-de-sac is back. Anniversary director's cut. I can't believe they did this 1 year after the release. I can't tell.
I absolutely
if it's a good idea or an outright living up to the name bad idea.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Wayshak art, I'm at least going to buy in on that. What can I say?
Yeah.
All right. Look, Kyle, every chance he gets, makes a Dungeon Crawler Carl reference. It's just who Kyle is. It's part of his DNA now. He's obsessed with it. But you know what
cult.
Matt Dinneman, the creator of Dungeon Crawler Carl, really likes? Dead Acre. Dead Acre is a series of incredible prose novels that now has sequential art form thanks to the unbelievable Cullen Bunn. You can read Jamie Castle and Rhett Bruno's awesome Western paranormal tale in comic form. Issue number 1 just dropped this past week, and now we are getting new stories. If you need more Western paranormal fun, Deadly Tales of Gunslinger Spawn from Jimmy Palmiotti. We've had both Jimmy and Cullen as guests on the show recently, which is always fun. Sorry, there was a manga I wanted to spotlight. Don't Confuse Me, Yamori-kun. Another great Yen Press one that is now accessible to comic shops. And a great, little twist if you're liking the LGBTQ fun as Mori becomes Yamori. fun twist if you are looking for good LGBTQ positive manga. All right. A lot of great continuing series. I wish I had the time to talk about all of these. Most of these you guys know about. We've talked about on previous shows. And you guys can go to lunardistribution.com and skim through them yourself. All sorts of amazing, amazing comics.
Right. We talked about Gargoyles earlier. That's coming up on Matthias' screen here momentarily.
Right there.
You know, there are also great Gargoyles trades out there if you want to read some of the other stuff you might have missed from Dynamite. Make sure to pick those up as well. And listen, we're going to need to talk about G.I. Joe because it's G.I. Joe, and I know we're going to need to talk about G.I. Joe. But before we get to that, guys, Dynamite is making all their great big San Diego Comic-Con announcements over the next 2 weeks. They've got an announcement a day for 2 weeks, it sounds like. Be paying attention now. It's never too early to call your LCS and be like, hey, did you see Dynamite announce that new Thundercats thing? I want it all.
Yep.
You know, this is a great time to kind of get your feet underneath you and start planning ahead down the road especially with these nostalgia properties, and especially with all the announcements that are going to come out in the next couple of weeks. Now's a good time to sit down and make a list. Sit down and start figuring that stuff out. So that's what I wanted to say.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited about that Street Fighter Vampirella that Nikki announced. But let's talk about something that's more tangibly on FOC this Monday. G.I. Joe 25 starts the new Night Force. Let's try it one more time. The new Night Force storyline. And this is supposed to be the biggest G.I. Joe story in the Energon universe yet. Could this be where, I don't know, maybe Snake Eyes finally appears? Possibly. Who knows? Not too far off a possibility when you time it with the Marvel G.I. Joe stuff. But I am particularly excited about this. I mean, Joshua Williamson has taken a toy line that I always kind of accepted. It was a part of my childhood in the 80s, but he has made me a hardcore fan of it. And I know he has made hardcore fans absolutely ecstatic, as everyone's favorite Joes have just been even cooler than they ever were before in the Energon universe. Some great covers on this. But if you're a fan of that classic 1980s run, you likely got a chance to read G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 2 weeks ago, where Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider, made her big, epic first appearance in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 330. And if you missed it, don't miss the second printing that features Lara Croft right there on the cover. My biggest failure, I want to say, in our interview with Shep and Sage last week was not talking about his cover on G.I. Joe Tomb Raider, a new miniseries coming out this fall with Lara Croft and our classic Joes. So, got to grab this second printing, this amazing, amazing cover with Lara joining the Joes to battle Cobra. Then G.I. Joe 331 to top it off. Will Lara continue in this? I don't know. But if you're missing out on Snake Eyes in the Energon universe, don't worry. It's Snake Eyes versus Snake Eyes in all the Snake Eyes insanity over in Real American Hero. Some very naughty and wonderful covers over at Gun Honey. Hunter X Hunter, yes. Viz's Hunter X Hunter is getting 3-in-1 editions that you can now order through Lunar if you have not read Yoshihiro Togashi's epic. This is a game changer in the manga realm. Then, in one of the best pitches ever, August 2026 marks the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' final commercial concert at Candlestick Park, taking place back in August 29th of 1966. And the release of their groundbreaking album, Revolver, back in August of 1966. Now, what does that have to do with Laugh Comics? Well, Laugh Comics was a classic issue where Betty and Veronica tied themselves to the Beatles. And to celebrate the 60th anniversary of those iconic Beatle moments, Archie is doing a facsimile edition of that Laugh 166th issue with some stunning new covers that featured not only Sgt. Pepper, but Abbey Road homages with our Riverdale heroes. I mean, tell me you're not buying all of those, Kyle.
Well, I'm checking out the Abbey Road one. They made a mistake. Jughead's wearing shoes. So technically it would be Jughead is dead. Anyway, but no, listen. I tend to not go in for facsimiles, right? These facsimiles is what we're calling them now, but they're reprints because they don't even have the same advertising in them most of the time. This is one I will go in deep on because it's the Beatles. It's the Archie gang. It's, all of the things that like deep down are a huge part of my favorite fandoms. So this is one I will really enjoy.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a single comic featuring the Beatles of any era that hasn't gone well above its cover price in the aftermarket. Beatles fans love this stuff.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. So a lot of fun things, a lot of great new manga coming in from Viz and Yen Press that you can now order. Some great collections and trade paperbacks, including some stuff that DC had over at Penguin Random House, and we'll be talking about in future weeks at Lunar, because Penguin Random House will kind of clump those together really quick. We have the final issue of Megalith on FOC this week. If you haven't read Over My Dead Body, it is a great sequel to Sweeney Boo's awesome paranormal graphic novel series, and now accessible at your local comic shop, thanks to Lunar. Otherwise, it had to have been ordered through Abrams previously. But really, really fun one to add to your collection if you love Sweeney Boo, as I can tell you I do. God, so many great books. Another one I'm excited about is Regicide. Patrick Kindlon is back right after Tigress Island wrapped up this past Wednesday. Patrick is back with even more. He brought us Gehenna. He brought us Tigress Island. And now he brings us a dark and twisted Transylvania-esque murder story. It's Dracula meets Berserk. This is just going to be awesome. And if you've seen any of Patrick's stuff, it often goes a little sexy. This is going to get a lot dark with Ludovic Laliat on art. I mean, let's face it, Tigress Island was one of those ones that had a bit of that dork effect with Image. And while the dork effect has died down unquestionably, and we're not able to really predict the lightning in the bottle we once were, I think this is still one of the ones that will be on the remnants that will get under-ordered and get more demand than it is. Will it skyrocket and become the hot thing that Dork and Tigress Island #1 was? I don't know, but I would expect a second printing on this one. So try and grab the first printing while you can. Then we have Starhenge, which I think always needs attention. This book, I really truly believe, is massively underordered, massively overlooked, but is an incomparable epic. When we talk about things like Once and Future King, that classic Arthurian legend, this is that classic Arthurian legend taken to a sci-fi era. Liam Sharp really pushes the boundaries of what is traditionally considered a comic and sequential art with this amazing tale that spans millennia. And if you haven't read Volume 1, it is well worth tracking down the trade paperback. If you haven't grabbed A Kiss for Atticus, the second part of the Starhenge series, go grab issue #1 from your local comic shop and grab #2. This is a must-read. I mean, I take it you're not going to disagree with me remotely on that one, Kyle, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Some great covers on there, too. Oh, Supergirl starts the Kingdom of Zod. Sophie Campbell and Joe Quinones bring Supergirl and Superboy into a world where General Zod is the big threat. I am most curious about the K-Zone, because look, the Negative Zone was a haunting enough place. What happens when Zod takes it over? I'm I've been loving the Supergirl series since issue number 1, and we've just had great storyline after great storyline. But this new crossover book to follow up the reign of the Superboy is just really got everything I want, because I need some come kneel before Zod level of power. And it never fails. Zod is always good. All right. Tankers, Thundercats, Fright Nights, and Transformers. All these great books. Get your orders in on them. But one I got to focus on is the finale to the Unbelievables. It's part 2, the second final issue of $1 Trillion Kids, or the $1 Trillion Kid, and it is the big setup for all of the Unbelievables as we get a massive team up of the Rockefellers, Hornsby and Halo, Mr. Tommy Townsend to battle their robot that's gone psycho, Sterling Steel, along with all of these new characters we've been introduced over the last issue of $1 Trillion Kid, Hornsby and Halo, and Rockefellers. I've been loving this. I love this so much more than I've been loving the Unbelievable universe prior, and this has me so excited for what's coming in the future.
I may or may not have been slowly sort of sneaking a peek as I can at the new Hornsby and Halo PDF that we just got. And I tell you what, some of the stuff that's going to spin out of the Unbelievables, you're going to want to have read all the bits.
Yeah. And I mean, I am so excited to see some of these develop into whether they're their own ongoings, an anthology, miniseries. I don't know. I'd have to talk to Jeff Johns to find out, but thankfully he's at Comic-Con next week, and maybe he'll make some announcements spinning out $1 Trillion Kid of what's to come. All right. Another big one that we have to put the spotlight on is Yumi. Yumi 00EX is the newest Doug Wagner series, the same Doug Wagner who brought us Plastic, Narco, I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer, and more. This one is going to be a whole other one, as it is anti-spy thriller insanity, as Yumi's boyfriend, an MI6 agent, goes missing. So she takes it down to Whitehall. I think I got that right. Whitehall. The main location in London for British military intelligence, and sets fire to the building. She goes crazy and gains an odd ally in a James Bond-esque car, a fully AI Lamborghini built like a WMD, or weapon of mass destruction. This is all the insanity I expect from Doug Wagner. I love all of his writing. He just is an out there crazy dude who does some of the best comics in the indie comic scene and at Image. And I am all for this. Hoyt Silva on artwork. Look at that beautiful Mercandolfo cover. I don't know what the raccoon's role in this story is going to be, but I want to find out. So, Yumi 00EX. That'll be a fun one. But with that, I think it's time to get to our top 10.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So the first item is going to be our honorable mention, and that is going to be an original graphic novel for a character I'm hoping some of you guys are already familiar with, the incredible Mike Norton's Battle Pug. Battle Pug is what if you gave Conan the Barbarian a giant pug to ride into battle on. It is goofy. It is cute. It is so fun. It is an Eisner and Harvey award-winning series. And while it has been a webcomic, while it has had single-issue comics, trade paperbacks, hardcovers, and more hit stores, this is a brand new original story that was originally kickstarted, and now we can finally get it at your local comic shop. I cannot get over the cute little pugs in this series, not to mention the giant ones. Battle Pug Cosmic Doggacy is a must-have for me, and I hope that you guys consider it. Easy jumping on point for those who love a cute, goofy, flat-faced dog story. Then, spot number 10, G.I. Joe 25. It's the big new story arc. This is going to be big. What we were promised, I don't know. but we are promised something big in it. The Miki Okazaki cover obviously wins my heart. In number 9, Derek Chu brings Mary Jane to the role of Daredevil. And well, I would have just said a while back, that's just a beautiful cover. In this era where covers have driven things like Spider-Gwen, Gwenpool, and Mary Jane is currently Venom, it's not so far-fetched to think that she could be the Guardian of Hell's Kitchen at some point. So grab that potential first appearance, and otherwise a great cover for Mary Jane's 60th anniversary on FOC this week. Because look, it's also Stephanie Phillips, kicking butt every single issue of this run of Daredevil. Spot number 8, the return of Chris Samney and Mark Waid's Batman and Robin with a year 1 12-issue storyline that will be a year in itself. I got to give Mark Silvestri some love. Like, man, Mark Silvestri has always been somebody I've admired in the comic industry, but he loves his Batman. So it is such a treat getting new Batman artwork from him. Whether this was intended to be an alternate take for Batman and Joker deadly duo, or just something he drafted up for this dynamic duo, one way or another, it is a masterpiece that, in my opinion, is better than the reminiscent Jim Lee tale of Batman on the Gargoyle. And it keeps with our Gargoyle theme of Gargoyles on FOC this week. In spot 7, if you had to choose one cover for Archie to homage of a Beatles album, it's got to be this. Laugh 166 facsimile with Matt Talbot giving the Riverdale gang, all of them, a Sgt. Pepper style salute. Love this. Absolutely love it. Easily a well-demanded number 7. Rare that a facsimile gets in the number 7, but it's not going to be the only time a facsimile ends up in our top 10 this week. As Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles gets a new facsimile of issue number 1. The real question is this going to be the size of the original one? If it's a facsimile, it should be. I am very curious if this will come out at the original size, but one way or another, I can tell you, every time that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1 has been reprinted, this is another one that has sold out and driven up on the aftermarket value. And I think we have more Turtle fans now than ever before. So this is something to grab. I don't know about you. I can't afford a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1 first printing. So the facsimile is going to be the closest I can get. And it's even getting hard to get reprints of TMNT number 1 nowadays. So grab this when you affordably can.
Oh no, I forgot to change the picture.
Yeah, Regicide number 1. It was the I can load up the image. Regicide number 1, the Atom Cyber cover. I got it on screen now if you want to bring it up. Holds its spot in the top 10 right there. A beautiful cover. Like I said, a little sexy, but reminiscent of what we've seen in Tiger's Island and Gehenna. Patrick Kindlin bringing us back with a new series. I think it is worth paying attention to. As I said, this could be the next Tigress Island. Well, let's jump to number 4. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, number 330. It's that second printing. Lara Croft Tomb Raider cover with Tomb Raider movie on the way, with Tomb Raider having her own miniseries, with G.I. Joe coming up. This is the first appearance of Lara Croft in the G.I. Joe Hasbro universe, and it is not going to be her last. So grab this while you can. And if you can, go see if your shop still has first printings of 330. They might. Not everyone seems to have learned this key fact that Lara Croft is in G.I. Joe now. All right. Obviously, we talked it up. Big one. Gargoyles number 1. It is an ongoing series. Let's see if this can break the record and hit issue 13. I am excited. Greg was such a wonderful guest. I am so hyped. And keep in mind, Greg is a very accessible person. You can find him at askgregweisman.com, and you can ask him questions about your favorite Gargoyles. This is going to be a wonderful series, driving us back to 90s love. If you haven't watched the series on Disney Plus, or you just need a refresher, go give it a rewatch because it will make you really, really want to grab this comic. A lot of great covers. I put the Megan Headering up, the A cover, but look through lunardistribution.com and let us know which one you want. As we get to number 2, also
I did it again.
The wrong one is actually Yumi OOX. And of course, I had to go with that stunning cover by Mirka Andolfo. Mirka Andolfo doing a beautiful, beautiful piece because, I want to know about that raccoon. And we wrap it up with our number one, the big one. It shouldn't shock you all. Something is Killing the Children, number 50. Something is Killing the Children, issue number 50. I have not slept in days, guys. I'm so sorry for this. The blind bag with 50 potential covers inside. Rare one-of-one items, metal covers, glow-in-the-dark covers, foil, virgin, stamped. There are so many amazing pieces. There's a Frank Miller cover in there. This is a lot of fun. It's so many covers. I don't know how many bags I'm going to get. I'm really frightened at the choice I'm going to have to make on Monday. But reach out to your local comic shop. There are 50 potential covers in there. None of them are the ones you're going to get outside of the blind bag. So please reach out to your local comic shop. Let them know. Let us know how many blind bags you want. What other amazing covers there are. Because there's a J. Scott Campbell open order cover of Erica Slaughter. I'm frightened at how little money I'm going to have come October because I'm going to be buying all of these covers. My wife is going to make me buy every one of the 100 covers of Sick Tick 50. And we will be broke for ages. Thank you so much, Josh and Greg and James and everyone at Boom and Tiny Onion for making sure I will not be able to have a number of Christmas presents under the Christmas tree this year that aren't black bagged Something is Killing the Children 50s. Nevertheless, that is my number one pick as it deserves to be. And I hope you guys get your orders in and love this because I am excited for more Slaughter tales. With that said, reach out to your local comic shop. Let them know what you're looking for. Even if it didn't get into my top 10, if it was not something we talked about, reiterate that this is what you want so you don't miss out on it. PRHcomics.com, lunardistribution.com. View them all. Reach out to your comic shop. The sooner the better. Kyle, meanwhile, what do we have later this weekend on the EXP?
Well, coming up tonight at 7, we've got Christmas in July Part 2 with Nick, the original art show. He couldn't get through everything he wanted to offer last week, so he's going to offer it this week. Then we've got Nancy McKeon's Friday Night Live Friday night coming to you from Cleveland, Tennessee. Then we have a weekend off. No shows this weekend unless I do something crazy like come to you live from the event I'm at or, who knows. But then next week is San Diego Comic-Con, so it's going to be a crazy week. You need to be following our social media to know what's up because, I run this thing and I don't know what's up yet. So we're still figuring out. In fact, I'm getting Facebook messages right now trying to figure out if this show will be on next week because that guy's going to San Diego Comic-Con. So we're working it all out. It's all going to be okay. We're going to have content for you, even if it's just me going, did you guys see the San Diego announcements? Did you guys see this panel? Did you guys get to watch this? Anyway, we'll be here. So make sure you're following us on social media and we'll get it worked out. But we'll see. There's so much to watch.
Absolutely. I will not be here next Friday, but that doesn't mean the FOC show won't be. So make sure you follow the EXP on social media. There will likely, I feel, be a wonderful co-host talking with some amazing guests next week. I'm going to go inject a 5-hour energy shot into my femoral artery so I can stay awake long enough to deal with Comic-Con next week. But I'll be well rested and I will return in August for more FOC as we continue our weekly show, always with incredible guests who have amazing books on Final Order Cutoff and prepare you guys for orders.
Let's make that little tiny announcement. That first week of August, Matthias will be here, but I won't. And he will have a new, very beardy co-host to help him out. It's not somebody who's been on the experience much, but he's been around a long time. He's a good friend of all of ours. So be looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it. I do love this guest, and I already, I wish I could say I'm excited. So,
yeah,
all that and more. This will be a fun weekend. Get your FOC orders in and prep for Comic-Con. We'll see you guys next time.